All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 200 tonight.
Uh-oh.
Yay. Um, so it's been quite the journey, actually. So for episode 200, I think what we're going to do is just take a look back at the last 100 episodes that we've done. And this is kind of a thank you episode. Thank you to all our listeners, patrons, viewers, family, friends, everybody cool that we've met along the way, guests, so we're going to go through and do that. Before we get started, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For just $2 a month, you'll get exclusive guest episodes and segments. Tomorrow we have actually a full schedule. We've got two guests tomorrow. We're going to do one with J. Douglas Kenyon on his book Ghosts of Atlantis earlier in the day, I think around 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then at like 6 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to do an episode, or maybe it's 7 p.m. I have to look, but with Dr. Michael Masters, who is the author of Identified Flying Objects. So it's going to be a fun couple episodes tomorrow. But so head on over to our Patreon. We have a bunch of segments and episodes on there. If you like our show and you want to support it, please, just the minimum $2 one, you'll get tons of stuff, and also check us out on Discord. And one more thing, head on over to indrasweb.org. This is the social media platform we created to connect open minds. So whether you want to hypothesize, speculate, theorize, this is the perfect place to do it. So head on over there and set up a profile. What's going on, Maurice?
Not much. What's the good word, my man?
Happy 200.
Happy 200, baby. Let's pop some tops.
All right. So before we get started, I did want to list off of, our patrons, because they're the ones that support the show, and we really, really appreciate it. So I'll just run through the list here. Carol Lee, Lou, Paolo, Bridge Ryan, Zachariah, Zach, Trent, Chris, Sean C., Jeff Nash, Matt in Delaware, Laser Perner Jam, Kayleen, Abraham, Celica, Joseph, Ann, Sandy. Special shout out to Sandy. We love you, Sandy. Lee, Martin, and Chris, Dick, and Justin. So thank you so much for supporting the show. We love all of you, and we're just going to keep trying to make better and better content. And for anybody that doesn't think that it does anything, it does. It does cost money to do this podcast, not just from like the research and buying books and all that stuff, but just buying better gear, using better software, all that kind of stuff. So it does go to a good place. And if you go back to watch some of our earliest episodes and you watch the production now, it's night and day. So so what do you think? The big 200, or did you think we were going to do 200 episodes when we started doing the podcast?
I never really was focused too far into the future, but yeah, it seems like quite the journey. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but when you look back and you look at all the guests, you really realize that we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't, it's weird because I always said, let's just keep doing it. It'll just keep getting better. And I think the biggest takeaway from me has been not just meeting a bunch of cool people, guests and authors and listeners and fans. And we do get very nice messages and stuff too. We get some weird ones as well. I actually enjoy reading those sometimes though too. But it's just this, the way that we've cultivated this way of thinking, or at least, I can't speak to you. I know you've had a recent spiritual awakening, but for me, it's like I came into this thing only looking at magical, mystical things and, looking at the world through that lens. And since then, I've kind of looked more into philosophy and the way the universe actually works and, kind of balancing that line of thinking out with the science and, the more logical and reasonable explanations of things. And I think that there is this like middle point there where those things converge. And I don't know. I think it's been a wild journey for sure. And I think I've definitely cultivated a new style of thinking and a new way of looking at the world. And when I look at things, I look at its origins. Where did this come from? How was this created? What's the bait? Like what language was this created in? What year, time frame? That kind of stuff. So when you look at the origins of things, it does take a little bit of the mystery out, but it helps you understand the past and people and the way they think. And I think for me, going forward, the most interesting thing, whether I believe people's stories or don't, or this mystical thing or that magical thing, to me that doesn't really matter. I'm more interested in how people think and why they think that way. I think the mind is just it's the most powerful processor that we know in the universe. So I think that to try and understand that and then apply that to a lot of different topics, I think that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't know how you think about it.
Yeah, I look at it. Well, the bottom line is we've had so much stuff. It's almost like reading a book for me. I know you have better memory, but when I read a book, I only retain a certain amount of the information. So I've learned a ton of stuff, but I should actually go back and start watching some of these again because I know I'd pick up some stuff or it would remind me of some of the juicy tidbits that I've lost on the way. I just know there's been a couple episodes after where I'm like, wow, this is some really good information that I should start implementing in my own life. You know what I mean?
Well, I 100% agree. And we'll go through some of these episodes too. And there is some stuff even I look back and I'm like, I want to watch that again because there was some stuff that I didn't really, I need to get a better look at or follow through with. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And there's only so much you can, retain and remember. I mean, like you said, I have a good memory, but even I forget stuff and need to go back and relook at things. So.
Well, it's almost impossible to retain all the information. I mean, 200 episodes, that's crazy.
Yeah. So let's start with around episode 100, because I think we did do a 100th episode with Chris Emerson, who was one of our earlier guests and one of our personal buddies. And I think he was on like 5 or 6 times early on. He was one of our reoccurring early guests when we didn't really know too many other people getting into this thing. So shout out to Chris. I think around episode 100 we had P.D. Newman on. We talked about his book Alchemically Stoned. He just released a new one, Angels in Vermilion, which discusses like John Dee and Edward Kelly and like alchemy and like correlating it to like psychedelics and DMT and that kind of stuff. So we'll have him back on and discuss his new book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I highly recommend Alchemically Stoned. Dr. Michael Masters, he was around 100 episodes ago, and we're having him on tomorrow. So that's kind of a little synchronicity
awesome.
there. And his book's Identified Flying Objects. And I believe he's an anthropologist. I think he teaches at Montana Tech University. But his whole thing is, the gray alien archetype is the time traveler, and the UFO or UAP is the time machine, kind of a thing. So
yeah, that's some cool thought and different ways of approaching that whole thing.
Yeah, and we'll get his take on all the stuff that's happening, right now in the news and all the recent stuff, and then we'll also talk to him about his book and see if there's any new developments with that. Dr. Gregory Little, we've had him on a few times. He's one of my favorite guests. He is a psychologist and big fan of all the ancient mysteries, and we've had him on to talk about Atlantis. We've had him on to talk about Edgar Cayce, UFOs. I mean, his book, Denisovan Origins. We've had him, on a lot, actually. Actually, most recently, we did a slideshow episode that he put together on all the ancient Native American mounds, which I thoroughly enjoyed. There's a lot of good information in there.
Awesome stuff. Love that dude.
Yeah, for sure. So shout out to Dr. Gregory. And we'll have him on again. I know he has a book coming out with Andrew Collins sometime early next year, I believe. So we'll have him back on the show soon. Laird Scranton. We've had Laird Scranton on quite a few times now as well. I think probably like 4 or 5 times maybe. And Laird is always a great source of, ancient knowledge as well. Obviously, all his work with the Dogon tribe and all of his symbolism and his the origin of words and how he puts things together. I really like all of his work. I think his newest one's Primal Wisdom of the Ancients, I believe, is the name of the book.
Yeah, you know what? Another cool thing is meeting all these people, but then actually becoming friends with them on different social media platforms.
Yeah.
Because then they, not only did we learn all the stuff from the episode, but it's kind of like a continuation where I know, what's the Dogon guy's name again?
Laird Scranton.
Yeah, Laird. He always posts cool stuff. I was just reading a nice little article about the Dogon and some of the symbols they use and stuff like that. But again, it's just a big web of connection. And if you guys are enjoying this kind of stuff, we'd really appreciate it if you smash that like button and leave a comment, leave us a post, and let us know what we're doing good, what we're doing wrong. But yeah, we just like to keep in touch with everybody, and we've built up a good community. Sometimes we get wrapped up in the size of our channel and this and that, but we really have to look at it and step back and really appreciate the people that we have connected with, because it's a good group of people. It's a nice following in that sense. You know what I mean?
For sure. Shout out to Truth Seeker. Wow, you are very generous and we love you, and I enjoy our interactions on Twitter. That was super nice of you. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with you, Maurice. And I think that actually, if I'm being honest, like a year ago, I stopped I used to post a lot more, and I stopped posting as much, not because I didn't want to get the word out there. I just felt like, let's just focus on, what we're doing. And then if stuff falls into place, it falls into place. I'm not going to keep pushing that. We have like you said, a nice fan base and listeners and friends and people we've met. So there's really no need to keep blasting everything out there and on a constant level there. So.
Well, yeah, we never started this thing with money signs in our eyes. It is good when you create any kind of art, when you get more people to watch it, because it's more of a validation on that you're on the right path and people are really responding to it. But when you get caught up in that in the day to day, it really can suck the life out of what your original purpose was.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I just I don't know. I think that, like I said, we did go through a little period where we were just doing episodes, you and I, slideshow episodes, and I like those too. Forces me to do more research, forces me to learn new things, make more correlations and stuff like that. And actually, some of our better episodes of just you and I came out of that. But at the same time, I do enjoy our guests a lot. It's just easier. It's a better flow. I feel like I always learn something that way, and it's, I don't know. I guess I like both, but.
And where is he going with this?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I like. I mean, I'm sure the fans like the guests more, because who doesn't like a good author or researcher that spent, a lot of their life looking into these things. So.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it is nice to sometimes get a nice banter between me and you. It's a little, it's a way more laid back, and it's a little more jovial and fun. So,
right.
It's good to have a mixture.
So yeah, shout out to Laird. Again, we've had him on a few times, and always interesting with him. I think our most recent one we did with him, we talked about Skara Brae and Orkney and all those sites. So shout out to Jack from Trip Whip. We've had him on, quite a few times. We haven't had him on the main part of the podcast for a while. We did have him on, actually, there was a Patreon exclusive episode I did with him, I think when Maurice was out of town a few months back. But, yeah, so shout out to Jack. He always does good stuff and always has interesting insights into the whole, psychedelic realm and research and everything like that. So, shout out to Brian Scott from Reality Revolution. We've had him on a few times. He's killing it on YouTube. If you like guided meditations and meditation and stuff, he does great stuff. And he does interviews, as well. And, he's really pushing the whole, what is reality kind of a thing, and some of the more like astral and out of body type stuff and things of that nature. So.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Matt Tiller. I know he hasn't been really active much lately, but early on he was our go-to UFO UAP guy, and he was always fun to talk to, and he always had good insights. And appreciate you, Matt, if you're out there listening, and maybe we'll talk to you soon. This guy's been a big influence in terms of changing the way I thought about psychedelics and psychedelic research and medicines and stuff like that. And that's Tom Lane, who is the author of Sacred Mushroom Rituals, The Search for the Blood of Quetzalcoatl. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And it describes his ventures into Mexico and doing these sacred mushroom rituals with Maria Sabina and basically searching for Quetzalcoatl and discovering him. So that's
that was always a good couple of, that was like the first time I ever really, it was like my first mind-blowing interview was with him when we were going deep into that. I love that one.
And we did quite a few. I think we did like a 5-part series with him, and one of them's on specifically Maria Sabina. One of them's on Mesoamerican metaphysics. A couple of them are just on like the process or like the actual rituals and stuff like that. So go check those out if you have not already. I highly recommend them. And he's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that kind of stuff and the mushroom rituals and the Mesoamerican cultures and stuff like that. So shout out to Joe Moore from Psychedelics Today podcast. And that was interesting. We had him on twice, and he's a fellow fish fan, and they run a good operation over there for Psychedelics Today. They're trying to spread knowledge about, treatment options and all the latest news and updates and stuff. And they have a good podcast where they have a lot of the mainstream psychedelic researchers and even some of the more obscure ones. So check them out if you haven't already. This next guy's got a spot in both of our hearts, Mr. Lee Adams. Shout out to Lee. He's been a good friend, and we obviously collaborated on Indra's Web, and he's working on another project that we're doing as well. And we just had him on last week, and I thought that was a really good episode on his new book, which is A Visionary Guide to Lucid Dreaming, which I highly recommend. So go check out that episode if you haven't already.
Yeah, when are we going to be breaking some of that news out about the secret project?
We should still wait a little bit, I think, in my opinion. We should still wait till
chomping at the bit on this thing.
We should still wait a little bit longer, I think, till we get a few more submissions in. So
all right. Well, stay tuned, everybody, and there's some stuff in the works here. We're working on a secret project.
I mean, we can say we're working on our first documentary. We can say that.
Okay, well, that's good.
We're working on our first documentary. And that was actually the goal coming in. We initially were going to do like a near-death experience one.
Which may or may not happen.
We might still do it, but it just became more difficult with the current situation in the world and everything. So maybe we'll come back to that here in the future. Maybe it'll be our second or third one or something. So we'll have to see.
Some other stuff actually presented itself to us. So we went along with that. We're kind of just going with the flow of whatever.
You have to listen to the universe.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Andrew Collins, who we had on to discuss him and Dr. Gregory Little's book, Denisovan Origins, and we discussed Göbekli Tepe with him and, some of the more esoteric aspects of the site and, that whole thing. So, we recommend that episode as well. One of my more favorite ones that we did was with Dr. Rick Strassman. That was a while back, but that was very interesting, and I'm glad we got to talk to him. And maybe we'll get him back here. We'll get him back on soon in the future here. But that was more of like a sciencey, nerdy. We were nerding out kind of a thing on that episode, so it was a little bit more science, psychedelic talk kind of stuff. But I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Dr. Rick Strassman. Shout out to Dick Kahn, author of DMT and My Occult Mind. We've had him on quite a few times, and just a wealth of knowledge, somebody that's really pushed the boundaries of the mind. He's a true psychonaut and really, in every sense of the word, and just appreciate what he's done to kind of put information out there. And anytime anybody's going to push the limits, the mind and then write about it, I think they definitely have something to offer. And he definitely took a more, even though he's not a scientist, he took kind of like a scientific approach to the whole process, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So shout out to Dick. We've had Peter Scherstedt on, who is a philosopher and psychedelic, researcher as well, or researcher of the mind. And he has a great TED Talk, actually. So you should go check out that episode we did with him. And then at the bottom, there's a link to that TED Talk that he did. But he goes through, he's talking about Plato and William James and all these mystical experiences that a lot of these philosophers and great thinkers have had through time. So that's a great TED Talk. He also has written, I think, a book called Pneumatics, I believe, and just an all-around great thinker. And maybe we'll get him back on in the future as well. We also have a Patreon episode with him. So if you're a patron, you can go check out that Patreon we did with him as well.
You know how many how many episodes do we have on that?
There's a decent amount. I don't even know how many, but there's.
You don't number those at all?
For every episode we do on there, like extra segment or whatever, I always upload audio and video. So there's always, if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube. If you want to listen to it, you can listen to it on SoundCloud on there. But yeah, I don't know how many there's a lot. I don't know how many. I would say
we should actually ask if anybody's
I would say
listening.
At least 50, but maybe, I don't know.
I was gonna say, if someone's listening and they have Apple Podcasts, if you could go on there and leave us a good review or just leave us an honest review, we'd really appreciate it.
Sean Cahill, we've had Sean on a couple times, and he's been actually all over the news recently with all the UAP, UFO stuff. He's been on a lot of talk shows, and he's getting the word out there. He was one of the people that was on the USS Princeton, which was part of the USS Nimitz Tic Tac incident in 2004. So that's really fascinating stuff. If you're interested in a lot of the current UFO, UAP stuff, you can go back and listen to those 2 episodes we did with him. We also did some Patreons with him. And he's a super nice guy. He's a great thinker. And like I said, he's making the rounds too. You've probably seen him on the news lately. So let's see here. We've got Mike Brancatelli from Micadelic. That was a fun conversation. And he's a funny guy. And I haven't talked to him in a while, but I hope he's doing well. So shout out to Mike from Micadelic. Big shout out to Kyle and Russ from Brothers of the Serpent. We haven't had them on in a while, but we've always shown them love. They show us a bunch of love, and they helped us get Randall, who they're good friends with. They do a podcast with Randall called Cosmographia on top of their own podcast, and they're part of the reason why we got Randall on our show. So shout out to Kyle and Russ. I know they are actually about to have their 200th episode if they haven't already. So congratulations to them as well. I think we all started around the same time and similar topics and guests and stuff. So they're really good dudes, and they do a really amazing podcast, and I'm really happy for them and the success that they've had. So shout out to them, and hopefully we can all make it to 300 here. Absolutely.
Well, it's not hopefully, it's when.
Oh, ooh.
And I'm putting that in stone.
Maurice wants to go to a five episode a week schedule.
Well, we're doing 2 tomorrow, so stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Shout out to History Shift, who's also been helpful early on, and he's big into a lot of the alternative history stuff, and he's been helpful in a lot of ways, and he gets the word out and shares stuff. So shout out to History Shift. We appreciate you, buddy, if you're out there listening. Big shout out to Paul and Justin from Dreaming Jaguars. They just did a documentary on extended stay DMT with they had Pascal, they had Dr. Andrew Gallimore in there. That's a really well done documentary on the extended stay DMT trip. So go check out their YouTube channel if you have not already, Dreaming Jaguars, and they make really high quality content. So, I mean, what you know, Maurice, you're a filmmaker. Would you say that that's really good stuff, right?
Yeah, those guys are definitely more about the quality than the quantity, and it's tasty stuff. They just released a DMT documentary, and it's unbelievable. So head on over to their page after this and check that out.
Shout out to our buddy Aaron Voot, who's an author of Spirit in the Sky, De-Evolution Cycle. I mean, he's hooked us up with a lot of the actually early guests that we've had, and we really appreciate his support. And yeah, he's just a good dude all around, and hopefully gets a chance to come back on our show sometime soon. So you have open invitation as always, Aaron. So just let us know. And again, he's hooked it up with a lot and connected us with a lot of people, so we appreciate that. Shout out to Donald Carroll, from the author of Spirit of Light Qubit, of the Spirit of Light Qubit. That was actually, I thought that was one of our more interesting episodes. So that had a lot to do with the Vitruvian, Leonardo's Vitruvian Man, and like the ancient qubit, and then all the ancient sites, and like the serpent energy and all that stuff. I thought that was a really interesting episode, and his book's really good. So go check that out if you haven't already. Donald Carroll, Spirit of Light Qubit. Let's see here. Shout out to Arthur Koopmans. He runs The Secret of the Norse. He does a blog and connects the stars and the ancient mythologies with the constellations and all that. We did 2 slideshow episodes with him, and he does a lot of research, so go check out his stuff. And shout out to Arthur if you're listening. And let's see here. Chris Cottrell, we've had him on a few times. Dabbler's Den, if you haven't already, go check out his page on YouTube, Dabbler's Den. We did an episode about tidal forces and things, seismic activity and stuff like that when we were doing our like super volcano episodes and stuff. So that's really interesting stuff if you like geology and kind of the way the earth, the earth movements and stuff like that, the moon. Let's see here. Shout out to David Matheson, who is an inspiration to Arthur and his whole thing, and a lot of other people having to do with star myths and mythology, and how that affects us, and we have trauma on some certain levels. So go check out David Matheson's stuff. He's an interesting guy. We did a slideshow episode with him, I believe, too. So go check that out. I mean, we've had a lot of cool people on. I mean,
I know, it's crazy. The more you say it, it's like I want to be like, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool.
We've had a lot of people on. It's just amazing to go through and look at everything again. And this is just from episode 100 to 200. And we did, I would say, starting with like episode 50 is kind of when we started doing all these author and guest episodes where we interview people and stuff. We interviewed some of our friends early on and some people that we knew, but I think that really started picking up around episode 50.
Yeah, that's nice that we got hooked up with that publishing company.
Yeah, it was that, and like I said, even RN hooked us up with some early people, Dick Kahn and a few other people, and again, it's just it snowballed from there. So
I think when your intention's pure, people can react to that, and it's not like
look. I mean, the whole goal is to like investigate these mysteries in like an honest way, and I can honestly say that we've stayed true to ourselves. We're, like Maurice said, we're not trying to make money. Like I could say a bunch of crazy stuff that would catch people's attention and get real deep, into stuff, speculative stuff, and it would be interesting to listen to, but it wouldn't be truth, and it wouldn't put you on any closer path to any sort of truth. So I try and avoid stuff like that, and there's a lot of that out there right now. So we're just trying to look at these mysteries and ancient mysteries and mysteries of the mind and all these different things and mysteries of life, and just try and assess them based on what we see, while keeping, the spirit and the magic of life in there, But
Hmm.
yeah, we're just doing our best. That's all we're doing.
That's all you can do.
Shout out to Maurice's spiritual awakening.
Hello.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
I just had another one by you saying it.
So yeah, you went through a tough breakup a while back, and you got through it. And listen, man, I think you've really turned a corner on the way you think and the way you talk about these things. And I know I've noticed like a general shift in consciousness in you for sure since all that stuff happened. So I just want to say congratulations, and I think that you're definitely on a better path. And
Yeah, thanks, bro.
and
I mean, it
sometimes
wasn't just the. I wanted to say it wasn't just a breakup. It was kind of everything hitting.
I
the
just
fan
meant
at
like that was
once.
like a catalyst, like it was
Yeah.
just like the, and it, not to like that happens to a lot of people, but I pointed that out just to point out the fact that we all go through tough times. And I think you going through that really tough time, and like, I've known you since we were kids. You're my cousin, and I've never seen you so shook up, and depressed. And for you to come out of that and become kind of who you are right now is kind of amazing. So
There it is.
now you can cry.
I don't know what to say about that, but
No, I'm being honest, man. I like
well,
I said,
again, like I want to reiterate, there's a lot of like whatever the circumstances of the world are. There's a lot of stuff that piled on, so it wasn't
yeah.
one thing, but sometimes it takes something like that to make you look at something and get fed up and want
Yeah.
some change.
And look, I mean, it was kind of like one of those things where I don't think it was any like, anybody's real fault, or it's just things happen sometimes and you just deal with them. And sometimes things aren't just not meant to be, So, shout out to Martin Ferretti, friend of the show. He does the Alchemical Mind. I think he just posted for the first time in a while too. He did like 100 days of silence. I don't know if that was just silence from social media or if it was an all around type of thing. But shout out to Martin. He's been super helpful with a lot of stuff, and we consider him a good friend. And we like to joke around with him. So hopefully we'll get him back on again in the future. And we're also working on a couple things with him as well. So let's see here. Anthony Tyler. We just had him on again recently where we were talking about all the recent UFO, UAP stuff. And then we did a Patreon on good versus evil. Is it a product of your like upbringing in the mind, or is there some metaphysical forces at play? So I thought that was actually a pretty interesting Patreon that we did.
Absolutely.
But Anthony is the author of Dive Manual, and I know he's working on another one right now. So shout out to Anthony. We appreciate you. So again, I want to point out too that we did more solo episodes. Some of the better ones I thought were the trip report episodes where we go through our personal psychedelic. Don't mess with too much right now though, Maury. We don't want to mess anything up. We'll dial it in later.
Alrighty.
We'll dial it in for tomorrow. But I appreciate you poker pointing that out. So
He's poking me.
the old yeah. It doesn't exist on Facebook anymore, but it definitely exists on here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, so we did more of the solo episodes. We like if you're interested in just Maurice and I, bantering and talking. We did the Trip Report series where we go through our personal psychedelic experiences. We're working on right now our way through, even though we've had some guests recently. We've still got some stuff ready to roll with the Metaphysics and Mysteries series where we go through how we thought about ancient civilizations, metaphysics, basically everything we talk about on the show. From where we started to where we are now, and assess it from there. And we did the Ancient Greece series, which we're still working on that. We closed out the Easter Island series. I thought, that was one of the more interesting ones, the Easter Island one, because I put some things together myself. There's still a lot of mystery there, but it's just one of those, I don't know. It's one of those iconic ancient mysteries,
Yeah, I like those episodes.
But yeah, go check out those. Probably the most popular one we've actually done in terms of people like sending me messages or the amount of views that we've been getting on YouTube and like listens and stuff is actually that Codex Gigas and Psychedelics episode, which was that one we did about like the Codex Gigas, which is the largest book. It's also known as the Devil's Bible, and like the entity there. And then we also had used that artist picture, Pavel. And yeah, I think that, that, you know, I thought at least, you know, I did a decent amount of research for that one. So
Again, something that I thought was completely different. Then when you do the episode, it turns into what it actually is. You know, we all have these pre notions of what we think is going on, and then it's a completely different thing.
sure. Shout out to Ian Jaded, who's the author of, I think this newest one's called Migration, and he's a really good dude, smart dude, and he's a really good artist too. If you haven't checked out his art, it's some pretty interesting stuff. Some of it's psychedelic inspired, some of it's you know, ancient site inspired. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff there. So I know I talked to Sandy about that. She really likes his art too. So go check out Ian's art if you haven't already. And we did we've done 2 or 3 episodes with Ian, I believe. So go check those out. He's also had some interesting UFO experiences. So, big shout out to our buddy Chris Wolford. And he is become a good friend. He's from the Detroit area, and he's one of those advocates that's getting out there right now, getting the word out, spreading all the, you know, the news with the UFO, UAP stuff. And you know, I've had some different thoughts lately on all that. I think that you can look at it different ways. You can look at it like, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like kind of what's going on, that have been researchers for a while, which I don't really understand. I think that all this pressure that they're putting on, if there is something that the government knows in terms of the UAP, UFO stuff, if there is stuff out there that's happening that, you know, they have more information, I think that this is our best chance to know what we might know. And I'm not even saying that it's guaranteed that they'll let us in on it, but I say that this push is probably our best chance to see if there is actually something there. And that's not to say that there's not something out there. That's just to say, do we know more than has been let on, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think we're gonna learn a lot of juicy tidbits here coming out.
We got to make a shirt for this guy's
tidbits.
Catchphrase. But yeah, shout out to Chris. We're also working on something with him, and I think it's going to be real interesting. So, shout out to Ethan Indigo Smith, who's an author. He's written quite a few books. Some of them are free, so go check those out. He also teaches Tai Chi, and yeah, he's into like philosophy and ancient metaphysics and that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll get him back on the show sometime soon. So shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Matthew Palmieri. We're definitely getting him on again soon. I got to message him back for some dates. But a lot of people really enjoyed his episode and his psychedelic experiences and sharing what he had to say on a lot of things. So I actually really enjoyed it too. I thought he knows a lot of people that are from some of the older days of more of the experimental stuff. So good stuff there. Shout out to Adam Bramlage, who's a hometown friend, and he's on the front lines of the whole microdosing.
Cali.
Yeah, microdosing craze with psychedelics, and he's out there, doing the work, and we appreciate that. And I know he's a big proponent of James Fadiman's books and structure and all that kind of stuff. So you can go check out our episode with Adam. We'll get him.
Maybe
back
we can get him back on.
Yeah, we'll
shortly.
get him back on. But yeah, that was so I got to be honest. I think some of the psychedelic episodes that we've done are just truly mind blowing to me. Not just the scientist ones either. Like some of the experiences, and I know we haven't done a ton of them recently because I just feel like we go in these like I don't know, we like weave in and out, like we'll go, we'll go on a run and we'll do some UFO stuff. We'll go on a run and we'll just do philosophy or metaphysics. We'll go on these different runs, and I think we did psychedelics for a while. So it's not like it's not in the forefront of my mind, but subconsciously I think that's why we bounce back and forth.
Well, there is a connection between a lot of these different things. So
sure.
But I mean, we could have off the get-go went in one direction and kind of went fully psychedelic. But I like that we have a lot of basis in.
Well, that's just it too. I think that's one of the. If you're asking me why I think that we don't have more ears and eyes on our stuff, I think that's it. We get a lot of people. Like if we do a psychedelic episode, we'll do. We got a good guest or scientist or something. We'll get a lot of viewers and listeners and everything, and then they'll see like, oh, these guys also talk about UFOs and ancient civilizations and Atlantis and all this other stuff. And I think that, not everybody likes all of that different. So we're very eclectic like that. So I think that turns some people off, but that's what we want to do. So deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in or tune out.
Yeah. We wanna...
or tune a fish. Oh, okay. So yeah, Randall Carlson, big shout out to Randall Carlson. That was probably one of my more favorite recent episodes too. And, he's just a wealth of information when it comes to geology and, just these massive shifts in the Earth's, topography and crust. And, I don't know. We talked about Atlantis. We talked about, some of the possible underwater ancient sites in Michigan, in the Great Lakes. I mean, he knows a lot of stuff, so we'll get him back on again for sure. And we did a full episode on sacred geometry that was blowing my mind, on our Patreon too. So that was pretty fun. And he's just a really super nice guy. I talked to him on the phone to set up the episode. He was just, super nice guy, super fun to talk to, and he is who you think he is based on all the, Rogan appearances that he's been on and his own podcast, Cosmographia. So if you haven't gone to check out Cosmographia, go check that out. And again, shout out to Kyle and Russ from Brothers of the Serpent. Good stuff. That was probably one of our better, we had that 3-day run where it was like Randall Carlson. Then the next day it was Laird Scranton, and then the next day it was Dr. Gregory Little. It was a 3-day in a row little run there.
Nice little hot streak.
Shout out to the Zignal or Dan Z from Twitter. We've had Dan on the show, and he knows, same thing, ton about the UFO, UAP stuff, and they're over there, in Europe trying to push this thing forward, and he does great artwork too. So if he does these stickers for like the Tic Tac incident and all these different things. So if you're interested in like that kind of artwork, or you like patches and that kind of stuff, check him out on Twitter because he's got a lot of cool stuff that he does. I think he sells some of it too. So go check that out. We did a Patreon episode with him as well. Let's see here. Ben Holt. That was actually, okay. So that one was a big, I like that one a lot because it was all about breath work and breathing exercises, which I'm a terrible breather.
Yeah, we almost passed out by practicing.
On the Patreon episode or the Patreon segment, I did what was it? I did some breath. What was it? It was like what was the name?
That's worth the $2 alone just to see Michael pass.
Yeah, I was basically hyperventilating, and then I was basically like hallucinating for a second. It was this breath where I think it was called. I don't know. It was. I can't think of it right now, but it was.
All right, man. We don't expect you to remember every little bit.
I expect myself. I hold myself to a higher standard. So.
Well, the human mind can only do so much, my friend.
Yeah. No, but check that episode out with Ben Holt, and he does like retreats and stuff, and there's also plant medicine involved and all that and stuff. So, but I like the breathing aspect of it, and if you like Wim Hof and all that kind of stuff, I think you'd like that episode. So, shout out to John Chavez from DMT Quest. John made some big waves with his documentary, the DMT Quest documentary, which came out, I don't even know how long it was, 4 months ago. And I got a ton of views, and he's doing good stuff. He's really into pushing the whole DMT research and academic research and all the latest studies having to do with DMT and all that. But that documentary was really, really well made. So if you haven't checked out the DMT Quest documentary, go check that out. Moving along here. No, it wasn't Breath of Fire. I think it was, I don't know. I'll think of it. It'll come to me. Hopefully it'll come to me before the end of the episode. But shout out to Matthew Roberts, who is the author of Initiated. Matthew was stationed on the USS Roosevelt when the famous gimbal UAP video was taken. He also worked for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and he wrote the book Initiated. We've had him on twice. The first episode, the audio got a little dicey, but we had him back on, and we had a really good conversation, and we did a Patreon with him where he, talked about all of his paranormal and weird experiences, synchronicities and stuff. And then we had a good time discussing different Greek mythology and how that applies to some of the stuff. So that was a really fun episode. So shout out to Matt. Let's see here. Shout out to Avi Loeb. He's caught a lot of heat. There's a lot of people that want to take shots at Avi Loeb, but I think we need more scientists taking risks.
Yeah, I don't understand really why.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, there's some people in the alternative things that he doesn't cite certain people when discussing other things having to do with comments and stuff, and whatever, I get that, whatever. And then some people take shots at him from the mainstream academia because he's talking about UFO debris and UFO waste and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. But I think it takes outside the box thinkers to push humanity along. I don't think the slow crawl that's happening in science, it's just not getting it done, So
No.
If we want to move forward exponentially, we need visionary thinkers. And whether you agree with him or not, or like his work or not, or whatever, it's that kind of thinking that I personally appreciate, because I don't think it's not conventional. And if you look at the greatest thinkers throughout history, none of their thinking has been conventional at the time either. So, and the way he's looking for evidence of extraterrestrial life is interesting too. His book's called Extraterrestrial. And he's, you can look for, basically like waste, like waste of a civilization is what you'd be looking for. So I think that, before I read that, I wouldn't have even thought about that as a way to look for extraterrestrial life. So it's that kind of thinking. And, yeah. So
yeah, may or may not be right, but if anything else, it's groundbreaking in the sense of breaking the mold and making you think in a new way, and that's what it's all about.
We also talked with him for a couple minutes off here, and I told him, I'm like, you should write a critique on modern science too, almost like, there used to be ancient philosophers and metaphysicians used to write these treatises on basically critiquing each other, critiquing this ancient philosopher, that ancient philosopher, and I think that there's not enough of that now, where it just seems like the people critiquing are just critiquing these material aspects and they're not really pushing any sort of boundaries. So,
Right.
I don't know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I thought he was he's an interesting guy, and look forward to seeing what he does in the future. Shout out to Andrew Gallimore, who wrote the book. I'm drawing a blank here. I have it right here.
Pop that bad boy up.
Where'd it go? See, now that's a real brain fart right there. Alien information theory. There.
Oh man, yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't think of that, and I know you weren't going to think of that.
No, that's funny that popped into my head, but I thought it was, for some reason, I thought that was somebody else.
No, Alien Information Theory is a great book. And if I didn't have it next to me, I'd still be thinking of it. But it's got great illustrations. I think he has an online version of it now too, so you can read it. I don't know if it's Kindle or what, but I think now you can go check that out on there.
Yeah, he's heavily featured in the Dreaming Jaguars.
Yes, he is.
DMT documentary.
Yes, he is. And we just did an episode with him recently where we talked about all sorts of things. We talked about how the mind processes tropanes, and the difference between a tropane and a traditional psychedelic. All right, folks, we're back. Sorry that cut out. Trying to figure this out. Recently got a new computer, and
Having issues.
Having issues. It shouldn't be. Everything else is a lot smoother. I'm definitely happy with the purchase, but for some reason, after 45, 50 minutes of live stream, it cuts out. So hopefully we'll get that fixed. I thought I had it fixed. I thought I had a real tech solution on my hands, but apparently not. So anyways, I think I was left off. We were talking about Matthew Johnson, who is a psychedelic researcher from Johns Hopkins University. And I think he just got some grant or official position as that. Like, I don't think anybody's ever been designated like a psychedelic researcher or something like that. So I think that that's a big news. And congratulations to Matthew. And the episode we did with him was awesome. I mean, I learned a lot, and he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to cognitive behavior and psychedelics and even other substances too. He did a great episode, actually. He was on Lex Friedman's podcast as well, and that was a great episode. So go check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, we'll try and get Matthew Johnson back on the show as well, because that was a fun conversation. So shout out to him. Shout out to Chris Bennett. Recently we had Chris Bennett on when we were talking about what is Soma, or what was Soma, and he's written quite a few books on the topic. And his big thing is he thinks it's cannabis. He thinks cannabis is what Soma was, based on the etymology and all the migrations of the different the Indo-European migrations, and the transition of the word from Sauma to Soma to Hauma, and the Rig Veda and the Investa and all that stuff. So that was a fun episode for sure. And Chris Bennett is a super wealth of knowledge when it comes to all that kind of a topic. So you can check him out on Facebook. He's pretty active on there. And the episode we did, I have a link to all of his books, so you can go check those out on there as well. Let's see here. And yeah, I've learned a lot from Chris, though, in terms of ancient cannabis and psychedelic use. So, things that you think are obvious examples of some things are really not, and it gets more complicated and stuff like that. But let's see here. Shout out to Angel Millar, who wrote the book, The 3 Stages of Initiatic Spirituality. That was an interesting episode when, we're talking about esoteric and occult stuff and knowledge and everything. So go check that out. Big shout out to Trent, or T-Rex. So if you don't know who that is, you can go check out our episode. I think Maurice was out of town. I did our Bicycle Day episode with him. And I also did an episode on virtual reality with him, which he knows a lot about virtual reality and the Oculus and all that stuff. So we love you, Trent, and keep doing your thing. He also has a podcast called Continuing the Conversation, which he runs off of their Discord server. So you can go check that out. I think I have the link down below, the episodes we did with him, or I did with him. And we'll get him back on the show so he can, Maurice can have the chance to talk with him as well. Big shout out to Soraya Ascath, who runs Where Did the Road Go podcast. He had me on a while back where we discussed Indra's Web when we were releasing that. So I really appreciate that. And we just recently had him on for the second time, and we were discussing the UFO, UAP stuff, poltergeist, because that's, the paranormal and poltergeist stuff, that's not really our forte. I find some of it kind of interesting, because it does have to do with the mind and psychology and stuff like that. But yeah, so go check out those episodes, because those were very fun. And his podcast is amazing if you haven't heard Where Did the Road Go. So, if you're looking for something to entertain you, or just interesting people talking about weird stories and, strange things happening to them, that's a great podcast to listen to. So let's see here. Now we're getting a couple of our more recent ones. Shout out to Rob Gentile, who wrote the book Quarks of Life. We just had him on. It's, this man had 2 near-death experiences and an open heart surgery, and he saw some crazy stuff and had a spiritual experience for sure. And if you listen to the episode we did with him, I thought it just, I don't know, he's just a really interesting guy, and he knows a lot about like the heart from having to go through all these different procedures and stuff. And just all these different obstacles he's had to overcome in his life. And, he's just, it's a great story and a super authentic guy. And I highly recommend that book.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable episode.
Yeah, if you're into near-death experiences or find them interesting, I highly recommend that book. So, and then more recently we had Shiva Somadev on, who Shiva wrote the book Journey into the Heart of Reality, and he created this new kind of different form of yoga practice. And we talked about like psychedelic use and altered states of consciousness, and him learning from the Fourth Way School, which was created by Gurdjieff. So super interesting guy. We'll get him back on again in the future for sure. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been it.
That's all 200 of them.
Not 200. That's last 100-ish ones that we've had guests on for. But it's been a wild ride so far. I've learned a lot, met a lot of cool people, and
look forward to the next two.
Yeah, look forward to the future. And so basically, I want a couple of shout outs. Big shout out to Sandy. We love you, Sandy. Sandy's top escapee level. She's one of our top listeners, but she's just a super cool person, and just wanted to give her some love. And yeah, again, shout out to Lee, who's been a big help. Shout out to Martin, who's been a big help. Somebody commented Tumo breathing. I think that's what it was called, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. Thanks, Mr. Nice Guy.
He's being nice.
Guy.
He's living up to his name. Yeah, but if you have it, like I said, it's worth the $2 to check out Michael breathing hard.
The breathing, the form of it that's what it was called, alkaline. It was an alkaline breathing.
Yeah.
That's what it was, alkaline breathing exercise. But yeah, Tumo, I think, might have been it. But yeah, I think, it's been a wild ride. And shout out to Sean too from Discord. Shout out to Zach. Hope you got your shirt. We don't know if Maurice sent it in time.
That's been sent a while ago. I sent you the receipt.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should, if you guys aren't a member of the Discord yet, go on there and join us. We do chats once a month, or we try to at least. And,
you can join Discord for free, but if you want to actually chat with us, you got to get into the $5 tier if you want to do a fan chat with us. And
it's fun, you get your... Let us see your face. Well, I don't know if we do faces, but to have a good chat with us. And,
I think Discord does have video. We've never done it, but we did record one of the conversations that we had. It was supposed to be on simulation theory, and I think we talked about like everything but simulation theory.
You never know where it's gonna go. Yeah. That's the bottom line. But it's a good time, and if you have ideas for shows and stuff, we're very open and honest, and it's a good community. And that's what it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to go through and thank everybody again. The podcast, in terms of, we do it in terms of what we're interested in, or I find fascinating, or Maurice finds fascinating, and then we talk about it or look more into it. But we truly are thankful for all the cool guests and people sending us emails, nice emails and messages and comments. And, we appreciate it. That's why we do it. And I wasn't expecting this kind of reaction when we first started. We didn't know really what to expect, but it's kind of grown. And again, we've built this community of super like-minded, cool people, and we look forward to growing that and hopefully learning and growing even more.
Yeah, if you would have told us on our first episodes we'd be interviewing Rick Strausman or Randall Carlson, I bet you we would have laughed at you, but... The sky's the limit when you put no barrier, and onward and upward, my friend. I look forward to doing 600 more of these bad boys with you.
Oh, wow.
maybe 800. Get to that
Wow.
1,000 marker.
Hey, we're still doing it.
Hey, well, you never know. You never know.
We used to call Maurice old man, but we really might be doing this until we become old men.
Well, that's the funny thing. They said I was old man, but now I'm looking younger than most of the cats around. So
Oh. And he called me Big Bear.
I asked people. I go, what age do you think I am? If I shave off all the hair on my face, I can go for a 28-year-old.
Yeah, I mean,
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen,
you look like a 90-year-old man and a 15-year-old man, and it's simultaneously. It's like one of those holograms. Like you look at it one way, and it's one thing, and you look the other. It's the other.
It's the light. That's what I have. Here, the dark side, I'm very old. The light side, I'm young.
Yeah.
I'm a young button.
Well, listen, everybody. We love you all, and we're gonna record some episodes tomorrow. I don't know if we're gonna do them live now. If this thing's gonna cut out, we'll figure it out. But if we don't,
we'll get one out there.
Yeah, we'll release one tomorrow, and maybe one in the next couple days after that. So, but we love everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Peace.